Ooh, have a go at the size of that yield. This is the Venom Diaries, where we milk Australia's deadliest snakes for their venom to create anti-venom that saves over 300 lives every single year. Alrighty, welcome to episode 5 Venom Diaries. We are here in the Wild Venom Centre at the Australian Reptile Park, and today we're looking at taipans, in particular coastal taipans. But I thought I'd take the opportunity as well just to have a look at a bit of snake bite compared to, 100 years ago, even further with the Indigenous Australians to where we're at now. So just follow me around the corner. Oh, have a go. The big king brown's out. Have a go at the venom glands on him, would you? He's getting massive, this snake. He's a cracker. So yeah, snake bite treatment. It's, obviously the Indigenous Australians, they had their own versions, and plenty of them too, depending where in Australia they were. And I'll just tell you about one because I actually met with an Indigenous elder out in Central Australia in the Red Desert country about 10 years ago. In the desert, they used to actually dig a hole in the sand and put the snake bite victim in there. It's like they knew that compression around the body of the affected area actually helped slow that movement down of the venom. And what used to happen, they'd dig a hole, leave them in the sand for a few days, give them water, and a lot of the time, surprisingly, they don't know what snakes bit them. They weren't too sure on the species or how dangerous they really were, but sometimes people actually survive that. So that was really cool to hear. We come into the early 19th century, there's bounties on snakes right across Australia. The development of antivenoms, of people's own version of antivenoms, was started to appear. Unfortunately, that didn't really work. And a lot of the early snake bite treatment methods started to unfold too. Now, this particular one here is from the 1920s, and that's a timber tube in there. One end has a scalpel, and the other end, you actually unscrew it, and there's gunpowder in it. So what they do is they cut the bite site with the scalpel, then they'd get the gunpowder, pour it onto the actual bite, and light it on fire. And they thought that would help immobilize that venom, but unfortunately, it wasn't very effective. Now, by the late 1940s, the coastal taipan had been responsible for quite a few fatalities. So they started to work on an anti-venom, but they needed to collect snakes. They didn't have any taipans to use for the venom processing. So what they did was this young fella right here, by the name of Kevin Button, in July 1950, he collected one of the first coastal taipans for the venom production. And unfortunately, he caught the snake north of Cairns, just outside of Smithfield. He bagged it. He actually hitched a ride home to his parents' place. He was only 20 years old. Hitched a ride home to his parents' house in a truck. And then he met another fella. They went to transfer the snake into another bag, and it actually bit him, and he died in Cairns-based hospital. But that snake was sent south, and they used it to get its venom and start the production of antivenom. And this young fella right here, by the name of Bruce Stringer, he received the first vial of taipan antivenom in Cairns. He was at Smithfield State School. He was bitten, taken to Cairns-based hospital, received a vial of antivenom, and he survived. So that was really cool. But yeah, this fella, Kevin, literally gave his life for the first collection of taipan for the antivenom production. Absolutely crazy. The pioneers, they really went through some wild times. And now, obviously, you guys will be across this, the modern first aid, which is the pressure bandage, which is very effective and saves literally hundreds, thousands of lives every single year. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump up the back of the park, and I'm going to get a couple of taipans out. We're focused on coastal taipans because that's what we use for the venom production, but I'm also going to show you the inland taipan, also known as the fear snake. It's the most venomous snake in the world, and it's one of 3 species of taipans we have in Australia. So follow me, let's go and check it out. Alrighty, so this is the coastal taipan. There's 3 species of taipans in Australia. You've got the coastal, this guy comes in at number 3 on the most venomous list. You've got the western desert taipan, which was only discovered in 2006. It comes in at number 4. And then we have the inland taipan. This is the one we use for venom extraction. Previous to available antivenom, it was pretty well... Ooh! Have a go at the size of that yield! And look... Have a go at those fangs, would ya? Isn't that insane? That's about 400 milligrams of venom. So you can see right there why this snake is so dangerous. 3rd most venomous snake in the world, and it's just in lightning speed thrown out 400 milligrams of unbelievably toxic venom. So that there would kill hundreds of people easily, all right? Before anti-venom, they pretty well had 100% kill rate when they bit someone, okay? So, you know, they didn't know first aid. Obviously, there was no anti-venom. And you can see there, the size of the yields they were pumping into people just ruin your day really, really quick, okay? So they actually called this species the killer of the cane field, all right, up in far north Queensland, because, you know, in the late 1800s and the early 19th century, they were growing sugarcane flat out. It really started to boom. These guys thrive around it, all right? They're primarily a rodent eater or even bandicoots. So they'd get into the cane, plenty of places to hide, lots of food. It was like a hotel for them. All right, and back in those days, they hand cut the cane. So they literally had cane knives walking through the paddocks, cutting it. They'd burn it first, and then they just walk through and cut it and stack it, and people got bitten. And they knew they got bitten by that, game over. And that's how it got the name Killer of the Cane Field. It's a really fast acting venom. It's wild. So if I was to take a bite from this and not treat it, very quickly, I'd be bleeding out of my eyes, my gums, every single orifice. My central nervous system would start to shut down. I wouldn't be able to breathe, and I'd be most certainly looking at death. We compare that to, let's say, the eastern brown. It's the second most venomous snake in the world, but they have tiny venom yields, and some people actually survive bites from eastern brown snakes, all right? No one really survived a full envenomation from one of these. There was one indigenous fella north of Cooktown, just before the anti-venom became available. He was walking through some cane grass outside of a place called Hopevale, which is an indigenous community, and he was scratched on the back of the carpo one, not even a proper bite, it just scratched him. And he had a cane knife in his hand, and he literally just went, and he cut the back of his calf off. Yeah, he was fully committed, right, this fella? Boom, cut it off. He still got unbelievably sick, almost died, but he was the only person recorded surviving, and it wasn't even a proper bite, all right? It was just a scratch. I know a fella that got scratched by one of these in the armpit, and obviously you can't bandage the armpit. He got just one thing, scratched him. He spent like over a week in a coma, 2 vials of anti-venom. He was in a bad way for a long time, but he did survive because he was able to get the anti-venom. That's a question I do get asked a lot, is what do you do if you get bitten when you're not on a limb? It's really unlikely that people get bitten on the torso or in the armpit or so, or face even. But what we do suggest is holding pressure on that area and getting yourself to hospital as quick as you possibly can, all right? So yeah, that's the coastal taipan. You would have seen on my Instagram a couple of days ago, I put up a really dark coloured one, almost jet black, where this guy's really light in colour. So a lot of our Australian snakes, just like these guys, they vary a fair bit, all right? So yeah, this one's really, really pale, striking snake. They've got huge heads, really long. They've got like a coffin-shaped head, massive eyes, and they've got the biggest fangs of any Australian snake. Now, I'm going to put this fella away, and I'm going to introduce you to the world's most venomous snake, the Inland Taipan. So I'll be back in a jiffy. Have a go at it. The world's most venomous snake. This is the Inland Taipan, also known as the fierce snake, or the small scale snake. And it's the most venomous snake in the world, but crazy, there's never been a single human fatality that we know of with this species, and they've been keeping inland taipans. Well, they've been keeping records of snake bites for over 150 years. Now, I get asked this question a lot, why don't I milk this species? Put it this way, they're that toxic, they can't put even the smallest amount of venom into a horse because it would kill it. Even though they're so toxic, even compared to the coastal taipan, the one I just had out, they can still use the venom from the coastal taipan, because it's very similar, to make the anti-venom that would treat a bite from this species, okay? So I honestly believe without anti-venom from a bite from a snake like this, you would 100% be looking at death. Really fast acting. I know a guy that was bitten by quite a small one of these on the hand. He woke up about 11 days later from a coma. He had 2 brain bleeds. He was resuscitated twice, 2 vials of anti-venom from literally one, not even half the size of this, okay? So really fast acting. And why do they need to be so venomous? And in fact, why do a lot of Australian snakes need to be so venomous? And this one in particular, you really got to go out there to understand. They're found out in far western Queensland and sort of northeast of Coober Pedy. It's only a very small distribution, the black soil plains and sort of into the Gibber country there. It is so harsh and so remote. I was out there a few months ago at 6:50 in the morning. I found one of these on the black soil in far western Queensland. It was already 39 degrees. you look around and there's nothing, right? There's the Earth's surface is so dry, it's cracked apart into these huge crevices that can be over 8 meters deep. That's where they live. They spend literally 90% of their life underground. They pop up, scoot across the surface, go back down into another crack. If it's a little bit cooler, they'll sit on the surface for a little bit, maybe just sticking that black head out. They can use that to absorb the heat required to regulate the body temperature. Obviously, it's a reptile, it's ectothermic. He needs to use an external heat source to warm his body temperature. So we think that might be why they have a dark head. And also, in summer, they go this beautiful golden color. Winter, they're almost jet black, because summer out there, it's boiling hot. Winter, freezing cold. Literally can get to 0 overnight. So we think they go through this color transition to aid in the temperatures to help them. You know, if he was jet black in summer, he'd literally cook out there. So he goes this nice light color, couple of speckles in there to help him camouflage. Winter, almost jet black. He can pop up, get a bit of sun. He needs to be extremely cautious of predators out there. Big goannas like parentes and even birds of prey would tackle these guys, and even other snakes like a king brown, gobble this guy up, no worries. Woma python, whatever. All right, so yeah, we can't milk them because they're just too toxic. But lucky, we can make the anti-venom from the coastal taipan, and it's enough to sort one of these guys, the coastal, or even the western desert taipan. Now, I touched base on the western desert taipan reef just a little bit before. They were only discovered in 2006 by accident. They thought it was a type of brown snake, but when they got it back to a museum, they realized it was a completely new snake. And there's only ever been a handful, maybe not even 20 have been seen in the wild of that species. I'm hoping to get out there myself in the next year or two and try and look for them. But yeah, they live in the red sand of from pretty well Uluru right through to central Western Australia. We're still not even 100% on their total distribution because there's been that few found of that species, but they did the venom toxicity on them a few years back, and there they rank number 4 on the most venomous list, with this species here number 1. And this species literally leaves every other species for dead when it comes to toxicity. So to put things into comparison, or perspective I should say, 1 drop of venom from this snake can kill 250,000 mice. It's about 110 grown men, no worries. So you imagine in a bite, like these guys, we have milked them for research purposes, and they will average about 150 milligrams in a bite. So that's a lot of drops, and yeah, that would wreck you really, really quick. Thankfully, they are a very elusive species. They're rarely seen. Normally, to find one of these, you've got to be out there looking for them. So people like myself to go out there into the bush and locate them and find them. I love them. I dreamt my whole childhood heading out to find one of these ones, and I remember the first one I ever seen, couldn't believe my eyes, because you go out there and there is seriously nothing out there. I might post some photos on my story on Instagram and show you guys what it looks like out there, and a young individual that I found, because there's just nothing going on, right? We would just perish out there. These guys thrive, and they come in good times and bad times. There'll be flood events out there. Boom and bust, all right? You know, you might not eat for 2 years, and then they have a flood. The rodents that they feed on out there, the grasses grow, the rodents go berserko in breeding. These guys capitalise, smash food, breed, and then they might go 6, 8, 10 years while it's really, really harsh. So we think, why they're so toxic, when he finds something, he needs to make sure he's going to kill it, and quick smart. So he can locate a rodent with that forked tongue, whack, hit it, let go, it'll run off, and they're on their side, dead in a few seconds. That's how fast it works, all right? That's why we think they're so dangerous. How good, the inland taipan. Hopefully, down the track, I'll have an episode with you guys with the western desert taipan. We might even be getting a couple here at the reptile park a little bit later on this year, but I'll keep you posted on that one. Anyway, guys, that's it for episode 5. Hope you loved it. Thanks for all the support. That last episode went absolutely bananas, so I really appreciate that. Remember, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll see you for episode number 6.